Phase 1. Mr. Sun lazily drifted above the deep rocky canyon, warming the ancient stones with his bright rays. Suddenly, an unnatural purple haze infused with black's magic rose from the deep ravines. This caustic fog began to greedily absorb the warm golden light, creating a suffocating shadow. Simon, standing on the edge of the cliff, watched in terror as the air temperature plummeted below freezing. The sun himself panicked and tried to rise higher, but the dark air currents pulled him down like invisible chains. Phase 1.5. Mr. Sun's golden face cracked deeply, leaking a thick, suffocating black smoke into the sky. His familiar, cheerful smile twisted into a crooked, painful grimace of a dying celestial body. An invisible parasite inside him forced the entity to pulse in time with muffled thuds echoing from underground. Garnold fled in a total panic down the narrow path, feeling the rocks vibrate with this terrifying energy. Trapped inside his own mind, the formerly kind being screamed silently as the darkness completely consumed half of his essence. Phase 2. The last remnants of his warmth evaporated, leaving a horrifying sphere of burning ash with one massive purple pupil. The stone pillars of the canyon began to crack and crumble, unable to withstand the piercing gaze of this eye. The celestial body lost all of its emotions, becoming a ruthless overseer of the rocky wasteland. Orin tried to squeeze into a deep cave, desperately attempting to hide from the crushing sense of an alien hostile presence. From now on, Mr. Sun was merely a puppet of the abyss, coldly studying his newly acquired territory. Phase 2.5. The outlines of the ashen sphere distorted before it crunched, and grew thick stone tentacles oozing with molten magma. 3 narrow slits opened on his disfigured surface, blazing with a toxic, sickening yellow light. The air in the gorge instantly superheated, filling with the suffocating stench of sulfur and melted minerals. The energy radiating from this flying nightmare caused boulders to tear from the ground and levitate in an anti-gravity field. It was no longer a planet, but an ancient chthonic deity awakened to destroy all life among the rocks. Phase 3. The stone shell suddenly shattered and fell like a meteor shower, revealing a giant floating black crystal in the sky. A freezing blue light flared in the very center of this multifaceted prism, acting as a ruthless laser scanner. The moment this unnatural beam touched the ground, the rocks were instantly covered in a thick layer of black frost. Lime pressed himself into a narrow crevice, praying that the scanning light would pass by his hiding spot. The defiled crystal rotated slowly and methodically, searching for the slightest signs of life at the bottom of the canyon. Phase 3.5. The blue light faded, and the crystal collapsed in on itself, forming an absolute black hole right above the gorge. All ambient light was instantly consumed, plunging the twisting labyrinths of the canyon into impenetrable, viscous darkness. A dead silence fell over the area, broken only by the horrifying whistle of air being sucked into the gravitational vortex. The invisible anomaly glided silently above the chasms, leaving behind a trail of stone frozen at absolute zero. Anyone caught below felt the very will to live being violently extracted from their bodies. Phase 4. A bizarre mechanism emerged from the gravitational rift, resembling a giant, rusty gear with a vertical glowing slit in the middle. This new eye emitted a pale, deathly light that easily pierced through the thick dust storm of the canyon. Under its influence, the ancient stones began to rapidly degrade, turning into a fine, highly toxic sand. Mr.Fun computer's screen glitched with heavy static, detecting a massive release of unknown high-yield radiation. The entity hovered in the sky, demonstrating the cold calculation of a machine waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Phase 4.5. The metal teeth of the gear lengthened and sharpened, transforming the object into a menacing, hovering disc covered in spikes. Its vertical eye filled with blood, casting long, pulsating crimson shadows across the walls of the gorge. Thin metal cables moved along the hull like tentacles, probing the dry air for the scent of escaping victims. The disc descended lower, scraping against the rocks with a terrifying screech and emitting a mind-bending, low-frequency hum. The labyrinth of the canyon was now his personal arena, and his bloody gaze scanned every crumbling grain of sand. Phase 5. The central eye ruptured into dozens of small, chaotically spinning pupils, all suspended within a pulsating cloud of gas. These dozens of maddened eyes looked in every direction simultaneously, depriving victims of any chance to hide. A sickly burgundy light flooded the canyon, making the gorge walls look as if they were bleeding fresh blood. Brud tried to dash from one boulder to another, but every single gaze instantly locked onto his position. The unbearable psychological pressure paralyzed everything around, forcing even the wind to freeze in primal terror. Ready for a challenge? According to statistics, only 3% of viewers manage to like the video and subscribe to the channel before the timer runs out. Write a comment if you made it in time. Phase 6. The cloud dissipated, giving way to a hideous clump of infected flesh jutting with curved bone growths. The massive central pupil dilated to its absolute limit, radiating pure chaotic energy that threatened to grind the gorge into dust. The atmosphere became unbearably hot, filling the canyon with a wet, putrid steam that burned the lungs with every breath. The entity unleashed a guttural roar, triggering a massive rockfall that destroyed the last remaining shelters in the canyon. Black had completely consumed the victim's mind, leaving only a shell overflowing with blind, primal fury. Phase 7. A tear formed right in the center of the pulsating eye, transforming into a giant maw lined with concentric rows of stone fangs. The monster made no sound, but its gaping jaw created a vacuum draft that sucked up dust and pebbles from the gorge floor. Sky shrank into the depths of a cave, trembling with fear as he watched the heavens literally try to devour the earth. The bone growths on the entity's body writhed like parasites, ready to snatch any prey lifted into the air. Nothing remained of the once gentle Mr. Sun except an insatiable hunger, striving to consume the entire canyon. Phase 8. The terrifying maw slammed shut, and the entire mass of the monster compressed into a tiny, incredibly heavy sphere of absolute darkness. A blinding red beam erupted from the center of this hyperdense point, cutting through the gloom like a red-hot scalpel. The heat from this concentrated stare was so intense that it instantly turned the rocks into liquid glass. The sphere hovered in frightening stillness, presenting itself as a perfect manifestation of pure malice ready to detonate. The ground beneath it cracked open, unable to resist the colossal gravitational pressure bearing down upon it. Phase 9. The dark matter of the sphere violently ejected geometrically perfect spikes in all directions, forming a floating black star. The red beam narrowed into a thin, aggressive line, methodically tracking those who were still trying to survive among the ruins. Pinky, hiding in a narrow crevice, froze in absolute horror as this ominous light slid just a millimeter away from her shelter. The entity moved in short spatial jumps, instantly appearing in different parts of the canyon without making a single sound. It was now the ultimate hunter, cold and completely detached from any memories of its bright, joyful past. Phase 9.5. The upper rays of the star became covered in impenetrable black armor, while the lower half took the shape of a red-hot pendulum. A tiny black dot appeared in the very center of the red glow, acting as a tireless, unblinking sensor. The monster descended almost to the ground, combing the bottom of the gorge like a high-tech military drone. The sinister glow picked out the ruined stones from the darkness, making them cast twitching, lifelike shadows. It scanned every inch of space, ensuring that Black's corruption would not miss a single escaping soul. Phase 10. The form changed once again as a crack split open in the center of the black armor, revealing a pulsating, acid green eye. This toxic light seemed hypnotic, but it radiated waves of immense mental terror that penetrated straight into the brain. The entity began to emit a piercing, high-frequency shriek that amplified dramatically as it bounced off the canyon walls. Gray covered his ears in despair, realizing that this sonic torture was designed to force survivors to flee into the open. The distorted star reveled in the acoustic chaos, feeding on the waves of panic filling the stone labyrinth. Phase 11. The shriek cut off, and the surface of the object smoothed out, turning into a perfect cube made of an unknown mirrored metal. A vertical silver slit appeared on one of its faces, completely devoid of any emotions or desires. The cube hovered motionless between the steep cliffs, becoming a terrifying monument to absolute, irreversible corruption. The temperature around it dropped so drastically that the air itself began to precipitate onto the rocks as black crystals. It had reached a state of terrifying perfection, becoming the silent herald of the impending end of this world. Suddenly, the mirrored cube plummeted down, smashing the canyon floor, and a colossal golem clad in granite armor rose from the crater. The elements of his past transformations fused into the terrifying visor of a massive helmet under which a dead light burned. The behemoth marched through the ruins of the gorge, and with every heavy footstep, the cliffs shook like a massive earthquake. Tunner watched in despair from the shadows as the formerly kind sun finally became the invulnerable warlord of darkness. Mr. Sun no longer existed, and in his place stood a ruthless executioner ready to eradicate the last rays of light.